Block. All aboard! Next stop, Chicago Junction.
Yes, it's Chicago Junction, being the radio program that is everything that is railroading. Now here's our boss, the head of the Windy City Hometown Radio Network, as well as being the chief electrical engineer, Mr. John DeVita.
Well, thank you very much, Bry. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another broadcast of Chicago Junction from the John DeVita Broadcast Center on the Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network and Jack FM 89.7 WRHS FM Norwich on Monday, June the 18th, the year 2016. Today, the panel will be talking about railroads and the railroad industry. And now to start today's broadcast, here's our announcer, Mr. Brian.
Yes, my name is Brian Ballou, and I am your announcer. And here's our host with the most, Mr. Jack Red Ryan.
And you're much more. How's your drinking problem? How's your golf game? Well, it's like Ed McMahon and John Carson used to have a little rapport, you know. Like, no. Okay? Neither one.
I
didn't mean to shock you. I should have warned you.
You look better on radio than in person.
So true, so true.
But I've been told that. Yeah, hello, everybody. Before we get into the show, though, one serious moment we hear there was a serious massacre in France because it's Bastille Day, July the 14th, which is equivalent to the 4th of July for the French, and I forget how many we know dead so far, 100 and some.
73 dead and over 100 injured.
Is that what it is? Oh, okay, yeah, well, so far. But anyway, and we were not surprised, I'm sure, not shocked. That old junior varsity, as it was called. The president called them the JVs a couple years ago, the ISIS. But anyway,
our condolences to the French people.
Well, what can you do? It's well. You see why Britain dropped out of the European Union. I mean, it's just no borders, no passports, no whatever. So anyway, good evening. On a happier note, it's a beautiful summer day, and I think everyone would agree with that. This looks like a great year for Chicago baseball. I predict at the end we're going to have at least one team in the running. And for the playoff system, and I'm not going to say which team, but we got two chances there. Let's get a little quick introduction. Should we start the left side? What did we do, the left side or the right side last time? Does anyone remember? This way? You always say that. You always point. Okay, right here, Kevin.
Good evening. My name is Kevin Berry. I'm a lifelong Lionel train collector and operator. I'm a director with the Chicagoland Lionel Railroad Club. And when I worked for a living, I was a sergeant with the Chicago Police Department. Now I am very happily retired.
Very good. Next case.
Next suspect.
Yeah, right. Turn right, turn left.
Okay, Joe Friday.
This sounds like the lineup, huh?
It is. Dave DeRuska, retired locomotive engineer and a board member of the Black Hawk Railway Historical Society, which is a chapter of the National Railway Historical Society, as well as a blogger. I have a railroad blog called Player with Railroads about Chicago railroads. And I also am in charge of our Facebook page. Many, many interesting things on the Facebook page.
Since you mentioned, we've had some inquiries about participating here. And a long time ago, not our show, hadn't been born yet, but the Historian show was a part of the WJJG broadcast, and we had the benefit of going out live, and we could have people call in. But if anyone is interested in participating, if they're a buff, if they're a train buff, or if they're have a business, perhaps something, you can contact us through our Windy City Hometown.com network. It was info at WindyCityHometown.com. or the telephone there, leave a message, 630-887-7580. Okay, 630-887-7580.
And that's for the 11 people that we know is in our audience listening.
Well, we're not even sure of the 11. It's summer, don't forget.
No, we've been keeping track for the last 2 years. We finally got to 11.
Well, there may be some secret ones, some closet listeners. You never know.
Make that 12. I ran into somebody at Dalton who heard the show.
While we're on the subject, is there a special way to contact us through? I don't know anything about social media. Facebook.
Well, it's Chicago Junction. All you have to do is type in Chicago Junction in the search bar, and we should come up.
But I mean, is there a way of communicating with us? Or can they leave a message or?
Yeah, they can send me a message, or they could join the thing about our Facebook page is you have to be a member to post on it. And once you are a member and you put a post up, I approve the first one, and then I usually go ahead and just let you automatically post to the page. So
all 11.
Yeah, all 11. No, we have more followers than that, because whenever I post anything on the Chicago Junction page, it shows up on my page, and I also post the Chicago Junction program on a bunch of different railroad pages for Facebook. So
now
we get around.
To go on Facebook, do you actually have to show your face?
No, no, you can.
Mercifully, no.
No, and you could put any kind of picture up there for your profile picture, and I never put my own picture up there. I currently have somebody who's got a spider crawling out of his hat for my profile picture.
I'm thinking, who should I put up there? Oh, go ahead, Brian. Next case. Next man.
I am Brian Valou, retired Navy, and also former locomotive engineer and conductor. I am a rail fan. I enjoy all phases. I work on the prototype as well as models, mostly with Lionel or Garden Railways. Belong to a couple of museums and try to just soak up all the information I can and look for different places.
And tonight you found one for us.
Yes, I did.
Good. We'll get to him in a while. Yes. And from academia we have...
My name is Doug Kenyuk. I'm with the Railroad and Short Lines Club of Chicago. That's rscc.dhke.com. I also teach at the local college, teach computers, and a longtime rail fan.
I know. And I just noticed everyone's wearing glasses tonight. Are they safety glasses?
Yes. Yes.
What is that, John? You have something for us?
Gotta call it Rich.
Oh, see, it's working already. Hello.
Hey, good evening, guys.
Mr. Riley?
Yes, sir.
Richard Riley.
I have, my wife is on the line as well, Anne Marie.
Hi.
We're both here. So you get two for the price of one.
Formerly of Chicago, now of Chesterton, Indiana?
That's correct, yep.
And here's Brian Valou is sitting right down almost next to me.
Hey, Brian, how are you?
I'm fine, Rich. How are you, sir?
Good.
And Brian is the one
Long time
who
no see.
brings us together.
Well, I was going to school.
Yeah, I understand.
We spoke the other day, and you want to tell us what you have in operation now?
We do. We operate a bed and breakfast here in Chesterton, Indiana. It's in a 1914 New York Central freight station. We acquired it about 8 years ago. It had gone through a series of restaurants and antique shops and junk shops and craft shops. And when we took the building over, it was in fairly bad shape. So we spent the first year or so just gutting the building, restoring it. We'd sit at a picnic table in the middle of the building wondering, okay, now that we got this place, what are we going to do with it? Originally, we bought it with the idea of making it a second home. We had a summer home in Michigan that got a little bit too far to go to, or the kids wanted to be there only when we were not there, so we thought it would be a time for a change. So we found this place by accident, and we started the renovation. And I had to go through zoning, in order to change the zoning, and I was a little worried about the fact that we were going to turn it into a residential piece of property rather than commercial. So I hedged my bets and I said, you know, when I retire, we're thinking of opening a bed and breakfast. Well, the next day, the headlines read in the newspaper, big, bold print, you know, new bed and breakfast open in town. I go, whoa, okay. So 3 years later, you know, we're wrapping up the inside of the building, and people began to see what we had done, and the pressure began to mount to open up. So we did. So this is our 5th summer now that we've been open, and we've been very busy ever since. But we are certainly a rail-centric, you know, bed and breakfast.
Well,
you know.
it's good to hear you're busy.
You know, we have 2 bedrooms inside the main building. We have a big lounge. We have a G-scale layout that goes around the outside of the room. You know, people like to come and see. You know, and so it's been a lot of fun. We get to meet a lot of tremendous people and a lot of rail fans. We also host. I don't know if you guys are. I'm sure you guys are familiar with a web page called railstream.org. You know, they're the ones who have all the live cameras around the country. You know, and you know, we host 2 of their cameras, one looking west and one looking east. And he has about, Rich has about, I think, 10 or 12 cameras up now.
What did you call it?
If you've never seen the website, I recommend it. If you like watching trains, not only does he have a camera on the trains, he has the local noise, local sound, local microphones, and he also broadcasts the transmissions between the engineers and the dispatchers from each locality. So it's more and more we have people who are stopping by here. They're doing the whole route. They try and travel to all the cameras to see the actual locations. So that's been fun. But we brought 3 rail cars here starting about 3 years ago. We have 1 boxcar and 2 cabooses, and we're in the process of converting the boxcar and the cabooses to bedrooms. And each one has its own self-contained shower, you know, and bathroom. So we're just now turning on the boxcar is finished. We'll have our first customers this Friday. So we're excited about that. If you go on our webpage, you'll see pictures of the, you know, of the boxcar and everything we're doing. We also have a Facebook page you can check into. So it's been a real trip. We never intended. I don't think I ever intended to be so busy, you know, with the bed and breakfast, but it has been rewarding, you know, in the sense you get to meet such great people. Much more knowledgeable people about trains than I'll ever be. But I'm learning, so it's been a good time.
I know the
feeling.
feeling.
Get out this way, you should stop in and see us.
And the website is Riley'sRailhouse.com.
That's correct.
Have that in front of me.
www.rileysrailhouse.com.
And you're at...
You know, we have just shy of 100 trains a day go by on the Norfolk Southern, you know, double track line. You know, and about a quarter mile to the south of us, CXX has got a double track. And to the west of us, they call it Porter Junction. You know, you have a huge interchange between the old Michigan Central lines, CXX, and Norfolk Southern. So there's a lot of rail activity down here. And we're also adjacent to the Indiana Dunes, so for those people who are not so enthralled with trains, there's a lot for them to do as well. You know.
Well, it's something just to see, period. And you're at 123 North 4th Street, Chesterton.
Yeah, 123 4th, you know. I once made a crack to somebody. I said, well, that's an address you're not going to forget. If you ever get stopped by a policeman, you can always say, hey, you know, 123 4th Street.
Yeah.
And the guy sitting next to me goes, geez, you know, if I was a cop and you ever gave me that address, I'd arrest you on the spot, right? You know, because I think you're making it up.
Yeah.
But
that's like the poor guy's name, Aurelia Smith.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah.
Now, the phone is 219, let's see, 395-9999?
Yep, 219-395-9999.
I know when you called me back, I spotted those 4 nines right away.
I know. We were lucky to get that number.
It made me think of this thing.
Yeah, so.
It made you think of the hand you wanted Friday night.
Anybody else want to talk here? David Darushka.
David Darushka, yeah, I'm gonna promote an event that's going to be at your facility on August the 7th in co-sponsorship with the Black Hawk Railway Historical Society.
That's correct.
Rail Fan Open House and photo shoot, 12 noon to 4 p.m.
That's correct. Thank
Yes,
you.
and
Yep.
encourage. I know I'll probably be there. Health willing, I have to go in for surgery at the end of this month, but I should be able to make it out there.
Well, good. You know, yeah, I look forward to that. We have met Mr. Maroney a couple times, and he's a real delight to talk to. You know, I've learned, like I say, I've always been a fan of the history of the railroads and the importance that they've played in development of not only the 1800s, but the rest of the country. We forget just how revolutionary the railroads were when up until that time we were limited to where the rivers went and where the canals were dug. The concept of being able to build rails anywhere you want to it's hard for us to understand today how important that was. So.
That's right.
I also have Anne Marie on the phone. She's the one who's done all the decorating here, and I know Brian has been here to see that decoration, right?
Yes, I have, and it's wonderful.
Yeah. So.
Thank you.
She's the. I follow her direction when it comes to decorating most of the time. Every once in a while we have a discussion about something, right?
Yeah, I don't believe I had the pleasure of meeting your wife yet.
Well.
Hello, Mrs.
Hello.
And how are you doing?
I'm good.
Anne Marie.
Yes.
Are you from Chicago also, or?
From Orland Park,
Well,
Illinois.
Close enough, isn't it?
A
Yeah.
good South Side girl.
Uh-huh.
That's where the Nike base used to be, I know, out there.
Oh, yes.
The golf capital of the world, isn't it?
Right. And my mother is the oldest continuous living resident in Orland Park. She's 94, and she's lived there since she was 2.
Well, God bless
when
her.
there were 200 people in town.
Yeah. Well,
So she's kind of famous in Orland Park.
a real Orland Parker.
Yep.
That's like a real Angelino out there in California, isn't it? Maybe even rarer.
Well, Orland Park was somewhere around World War II. The population was 349, and now it's somewhere close to 80,000 people.
You're not counting Tinley Park and wherever else is around there, too.
Oh,
so.
and yeah, that's exactly right. Not counting Tinley Park and the surrounding suburbs. So, I mean, the growth has been tremendous. So, but Marie Allrip is her name. She's the lady who's 94 years old, and she remembers when they used to sled down the hills on the back end of a coal shovel.
Well, they had cattle drives down 143rd Street to take the cows from the farms to the railroad, the Wabash Railroad.
Yeah. So it's amazing history. We forget how much has happened in the last 100 years.
Well, we take this for granted, like there always were railroads.
Yes, we do. We still take the railroads for granted.
Now people get ticked off if they get stopped at the railroad crossing or something.
No, I know.
Of course, I know southwest side of Chicago. In the maps, they crisscross all here. So, anybody else?
I was glad to hear Brian talk about Operation Lifesaver. We just lost a citizen here less than a month ago. Went around the gates, thought she could get across the tracks before the train, didn't quite make it. So it happens all the time.
Well, I'm in Garfield Ridge, and we had the guy was a pizza maker at one local pizzeria, Abby's, and Archer, and he would ride his bike back. That's an Archer, and lived around 63rd Street, right around there, and he right at 63rd in Harlem is the train, and the one track went by, and he crossed, and he didn't realize there was one going the opposite way there.
Oh, yeah.
He survived, but I guess he's going to be quadriplegic.
That's such a classic accident. We just had 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, in Gary, which is a neighboring area, to the west of us. We had a whole family. Same thing. They were stopped at a crossing gate. And train went by, and the gate didn't go up, and they got impatient, and they went around the gate, and the train coming the other way, but they never saw it. Killed them all. So, yeah, Operation Lifesaver is very important. The statistics are absolutely frightening. Brian probably knows them better than I do, but the last time I heard, every hour and 27 minutes there's an interaction between the train and a passenger or a car.
No, it actually has gone up. It's almost 3 hours now.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay. Good.
They're never simple accidents.
I'll bring the new charts for you.
I'd love to see them, yes.
Okay.
And maybe that's because Operation Lifesaver is gaining traction, especially with the kids. But anyhow, on a positive note, we, getting the 3 cars here each car was a story. You know, the first boxcar we actually got from Elk Grove Village. You know, and that's only about 76 miles from where we're sitting here now. But the route to get the boxcar here was 305 miles and took us 3 days because you can't travel at night and you can't travel on the weekends. So we had to go through all these small towns, lifting wires and dodging, you know, low-hanging trees. But it's been a real adventure. A lot of fun, really. In retrospect.
Anybody else here? Doug, got something to say?
Yes. Where'd you obtain the cabooses from?
Hello? Are you there?
I'm here, guys. I'm having a hard time hearing.
Okay, say again. Then Doug Kanyok, he's our professor here.
I'd like to know where you got the cabooses from.
The one caboose came from the South Shore Freight line. Originally it was Atchison, Topeka, and Santa Fe. They bought 2 of them, and they use them mainly today for pusher cars when they're working in the steel mills. And the one caboose had been vandalized. They had cut the fuel line to the heater in the car, which I think uses fuel oil, flooded the inside the car, and then set it on fire. By the time the fire department got to the car, all the aluminum windows had melted out of the cupola, and the sides of the car had actually begun to buckle a little bit. They were able to put the fire out, and actually, it's kind of a funny story because once we got the first boxcar here, it's a 40-foot boxcar. They're very hard to find. The vast majority of them have been scrapped, you know, years and years ago. But due to the folks down at the North Judson Railroad Museum down here, they told me where this car was at. Actually, there were 2 cars, but they wouldn't sell me the other boxcar. So there's another 40-foot boxcar sitting behind this factory on a line that's been cut. I tried to buy them both, but they wouldn't have no part of it. So I bought the one, and we were looking for another boxcar, and Anne Marie comes in one night. You know, she travels on the South Shore in the Chicago every day. She works downtown. She says, "Hey," she says, there's a caboose. I think it's abandoned." I go, "Yeah, right. They always abandon cabooses, right? You know." And she says, "No, this one doesn't look very good." So we went to find it, and we ultimately found it. And I took one look at it, and I knew it was never going to ride the rails again. You know, it was all rusty and burned out. So, you know, I called the South Shore, and he goes, "Yeah, it's being scrapped." And I said, "Well, can you hear the train going by now, guys?"
Yeah, I can hear it loud and clear.
Maybe not. But, so I contacted the South Shore, and they said, "Yeah, we're scrapping it." I said, "Well, I'd like to buy it." The guy goes, "Fine." He said, "Take a look at the scrap prices in the newspaper and get back to me." So I did. We made an agreement, and they let me. It was in the Burnham Yard, which is on actually state line right between Illinois and Indiana. And I did the initial demolition, if you will, in the yard. They had a big dumpster next to a stub track, so anything that wasn't metal went in the dumpster. All the metal, as soon as we put it outside, somebody would remove it that very same night. You know, we never found out who was taking the metal. But I was indebted to the South Shore folks for letting me do all that work there. Although when we went in there, we had hard hats and vest and, you know, shoes and all the proper equipment. You know, so we were able to do a lot of work. But when I brought the car here, I put it back in South Shore colors. So it's in the orange, you know, the safety orange, and it has the South Shore logos and that on it, the freight division. And then the last caboose we have was actually the very first caboose I bought. It's a Pennsylvania caboose, somewhere built in the late teens or early 20s. So it's coming up on 100 years old. And it is it's in pretty poor condition, to be frank. But we have high hopes of being able to restore it and bring it back. And then in each of the cabooses, there'll be one room. The boxcar has 2 rooms. As I said in the beginning of the program, we're just wrapping up both of those rooms. They'll be online now. The middle caboose, the South Shore caboose, is going to be what we call a honeymoon suite. You know, it's going to be for adults only. You know, a single bed. You know, a king-size bed. It'll have a full fireplace, full bathroom. You know, a clawfoot tub. You know, so for romantic weekends. And then the last caboose, the Pennsylvania caboose, will be more for rail fans. It'll have about 6 single beds. We will actually keep some of the interior in that caboose, and it'll still have its own bathroom there. And because it's on the end of the track, it's got a view of the tracks going by, so they can watch the trains. So it's been a trip putting this together, but I've enjoyed it. And people really seem to. I take pleasure in the fact that people come here, and they like being here, and they like the trains, and they like seeing what we've done. So it's been very rewarding.
Anybody else, sir? No?
Hey, Rich, well, I'm glad we finally got to talk to you about it.
Yes, likewise. I hope you guys get out here when the Black Hawk chapter gets here. It'll be a fun day.
I'm not a hockey fan, so. I'm here for comic relief. Anyway, we were talking the other day, and we're like the same age. You're from St. Ignatius, class of '64, and I'm from St. Rita.
Right. That's exactly right.
I thought of a name. Did you know a John Hoban in your class?
Yes, I remember the name.
Hoban, Hoban. From the neighborhood, I know.
Really, this is a small world,
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
The older I get, the smaller the world seems to get.
Isn't that the truth? Always had a chance.
It'd be good. You still see John Hoban?
No, not in years.
Yeah.
Not in years.
We just had a 50th reunion. Were you there?
Well, no, I went to St. Rita, remember?
What?
I went to St. Rita, so.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. I was at our 50th.
You lived a block away from St. Rita, didn't you?
Yeah, well, pretty close. Yeah. I was never late for school once. You know why? If I was going to be late, I came home and had my mother call me in absent. So, so I was never late once.
You probably had the same kind of mother I did. You goof off and you get the spatula, right?
That's right. Oh, yeah. Yeah, quite a few times. So.
Oh, yeah.
Well, good luck, and we hope to see you soon.
Well,
and, hope
thanks
to
for
talk
having
to
us
you.
on, guys.
Thank you.
It sounds like you're enjoying what you're doing and you're prospering. Let's hope.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
We are indeed.
Yeah.
Thanks again.
And Anne Marie?
Yes.
I got a cousin by that name too. So.
All right. Thank you.
And Richard.
Yep. Good night, guys.
Good night.
Bye.
Good night.
Take care now. Bye-bye.
Okay. Is it time for a break?
It's time for a break.
Okay.
Take a break.
It's recess. Well, I didn't start this.
You are listening to Chicago Junction on Jack FM 89.7 WRHS FM Norwich and the Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network from the John DeVita Broadcast Center on Monday, July the 18th, the year 2016. And this is Jack FM 89.7 WRHS FM Norwich, Illinois. And now, back to Chicago Junction and our panel.
Lean in.
We're back.
We're back. We have returned. If we go over a little tonight, if you guys have a lot of material to talk about, let's do it anyway, okay? Who wants to start tonight? David?
David, yeah. Everybody has probably heard about the tragic train accident in Texas, Panhandle, Texas, where two BNSF trains slammed into each other head-on a single-track section. As of today, the report is one of the trains did not heed a stop signal. A train failed to heed a stop signal before it barreled head-on into another freight train last month in Texas, the town of Panhandle, killing 3 according to a preliminary federal report released Thursday. An eastbound BNSF freight train failed to slow at a yellow warning signal on June 28th and then continued past a red stop signal before striking an oncoming BNSF train, inspectors for the NTSB said in the report. The eastbound train bound for Chicago was supposed to stop and allow the Los Angeles-bound train to pass. It was traveling just over 60 miles an hour when it passed the yellow signal, and rules for yellow approach signal are just supposed to reduce your speed to 40 mph, and the train was traveling at about 65 miles per hour when it passed the stop signal. They did recover. One crew member jumped from the train, and he is expected to survive. 2 of the crew members' remains were found, and the third one they are still searching for. But they gave up on that search, but they're hoping that once they untangle the wreckage, that they will find it. So that was pretty horrible. BNSF estimates the damage at $16 million. The eastbound train was pulling 56 loaded cars, near the train had 54 cars, all carrying stacked containers of consumer goods like paper products, clothing, television, and computers. So,
No, inflammable material.
well, one of the trains had been fully fueled just prior to the accident. So when the accident happened, the collision triggered a fireball and caused containers and cars to tumble onto one another in a pileup. Says that authorities have previously said the eastbound train stopped in Amarillo to refuel, and that the diesel fuel contributed to a fire that burned for hours.
If I remember the news reports on that when it came out, they had to evacuate the immediate area for 24 hours to let the diesel burn off.
And actually, there was a civilian on a parallel road that recorded the collision, and it's been showing up online on YouTube and other places, and it's pretty horrendous. Anybody else?
Yeah, on a slightly less
Kevin?
grim note.
Happier note.
Yeah, it has been a very active month since our last show for the Chicagoland Lionel Railroad Club. On Father's Day, the club was invited to put up a train set over at the Pullman National Monument inside the clock tower. So a pulled-together 12-foot by 8-foot double oval was erected, and there were Pullman lightweight cars, Pullman heavyweight cars, and Metro bilevels in operation. It turns out that the 7400 series Metro bilevel cars, while not being built by Pullman, were built in the Pullman Car Works down at 900 East 103rd Street. And the gentleman that had the display immediately to my right had actually worked at that facility and had built those cars. He and his brother had both built the cars. So, it was very interesting and informative. And on the 1st of July, the Chicagoland Lionel Railroad Club was informed by Lionel that we had become the first club to earn, first club to be awarded the Lionel Ambassador Club of the Year. There were 8 clubs across the country in contention, and we were fortunate enough to come in number 1. There's a fairly extensive set of criteria. It's a 12-month program. It requires newsletter and Facebook participation and product review and product video. And everybody was very pleased that we were selected number 1. The other 2 clubs were the Chicago S-Gauge Club and the New Jersey High Railers. A very old and venerable club, and we actually thought that they would have been the ones to take the award first out of the box. So, we're a little bit pleased with ourselves.
And you should be.
And we are in the middle of building our new layout. The layout, for anyone who had been at the club, that you have seen over the last several years, no longer exists. A new tri-level layout is in the process of being constructed. There'll be a logging camp section, and then a base section, and then a raised third level that will tie in with the belt line. And it's going to be quite impressive when it's done. And they have promised me, although I haven't seen the tablets brought down from the mountain, that someplace on the new layout, the drive-in theater is going to pop up again. But so many people come to the club and want to see the drive-in and want to see what's being shown that it's actually become a subsidiary draw. Mm-hmm. So we'll see what happens.
That's in New Lenox, huh?
It's in 1311 Schoolhouse Road, Unit Number 4 in New Lenox. If you go to the club website, all in lowercase letters, CLRC and the word trains, TRAINS.com. There's a spot where you can click on to get directions. That's where all the product reviews and the product videos are. It is a family activity, and it's even geared, the admission is geared towards a family. It's $8 for a family, it's $3 for individuals. So, if mom and the kids and the grandparents came out, that'd be $8 for everybody to come in. And in December, by special arrangement, the chief engineer of the North Pole and Snowflake is there on our 2 Saturday open houses in December for photographs. We arrange for him to show up. You bring your own camera.
So tell me, where's a mountain around there? You said wait for the guy to come down from the mountain?
That was a biblical reference. You sure you went to St. Rita, or did you sleep through a religion class?
Remember, being raised a Catholic, we don't read the Bible. We pay our priest to do it for us.
Oy.
So some comedian came up with that one.
Brian, would you adjust his memory bank?
Well, let's see.
I know, as a reference to Moses coming out with the 2 tablets.
Well, aside from, the layout still running at the Chicago Botanic Garden, and the museum's doing well at either the Illinois Railway Museum at Union or the Heston Steam Museum at LaPorte. Went out there over the last weekend in June when they were doing the Civil War reenactment. And the Shea sounds beautiful running around the tracks.
Oh, you had a Civil War reenactors?
Yeah.
What were they doing, a particular battle?
Yeah, they were having fun and taking turns stealing a train.
I've run into a few people like that. They really are, the way Buff is about railroads, these guys
Yes.
for that stuff.
Oh, yeah, I have a friend that I went to high school with, and he's big into it. His name is Mike McGrowski.
I know
And-
when the kids were in the color guard, St. Rita, that's what we called, we used to make a lot of parades, especially on 4th of July, do 3 in a day. And here was a group, Civil War, and they marched in a certain way, like you think the guys were worn out. Of course, they were all taller, the Civil War guys, probably older too. But nonetheless, it was just very, very interesting to see. They do more recent wars too, World War II, and I think.
Different groups.
Different groups.
Yeah.
Another thing going on the starting the 28th of July. 28th, 29th, Thursday through the weekend. 28th, 29th, 30th, and 31st. Eli's Cheesecake will be having a festival at their place up on Forest Preserve Drive and at their cheesecake factory store. And starting on Saturday, Friday we'll be doing it, the Midwest Rails G-Scale Modular Group will be setting up their layout up there to show over the weekend. And they'll have stage shows there. They got stuff for kids to do. They have a farmer's market. And on Sunday will be the car show. So if you got a good hot ride or a good restoration you want to show off, come up to Eli's.
No, mine just a junk. Now, are you involved with that or no?
Yes, I am.
As
I'm a member of the Midwest Rails Group,
yeah.
and I'm the layout coordinator, so I have to be there.
Well, I am a member of the fans of Eli's Cheesecake.
Well, then you are more than welcome.
Can't you tell?
And actually, the owner of Eli's, he's very happy with his little G-gauge train. He makes sure that we play with it for him.
But you've been doing this for a while. Every year, isn't it?
Yeah, well, they it took a 2-year hiatus, and last year they started it up again. And one of the things they wanted is to have the layout back, and so we were doing it
Starting the 28th through
the 31st of July.
Well, that's a good 4 days. Huh? Yeah.
Robert Eklund, the guy that made himself famous playing Freddy Krueger,
Yeah.
is a big G-scale guy. I've seen photos of his layout. He has a a mountain with the tunnel in it and an operating waterfall as part of his layout in his backyard. But he's got that nice West Coast weather.
Well, listen, there are people here in Illinois that have waterfalls, various sizes, and you have to come out and see them. And yeah, because just because you like trains, you don't have to have a layout to be a G gauger or something. If you want another G gauger is John Lasseter, the head of Disney Animation and Pixar. Not only does he have his own trains running throughout his house in his vineyard, he's got a 3-foot gauge railroad running around his property from a locomotive he bought off another Disney artist. The last one to pass away.
Ward Kimball?
No, Kimball, not Kimball.
Ollie Thomas, something Jackson?
Ollie Johnson.
Johnson, okay.
Ollie Johnson.
Yeah.
He's the one who actually got Walt to build 7.5-inch gauge.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Historically, Buster Keaton was very much into the trains.
He was into American Flyer.
Was it?
Yes.
I remember pictures. They had a real extensive, intricate layout in his own house.
Yes, he had a heck of a American Flyer layout.
Now, for you young folks, Buster Keaton was Joseph Keaton Jr., son of vaudevillians. He made his mark in the world as one of the great silent comedians, and he was known as the Great Stone Face because he never changed his expression.
And he was one of the best gag artists right up until when he passed away in the 60s.
Yeah, that's right.
66.
Red Skelton, he had taken him under his tutelage, I remember. And you can see a lot of Red Skelton pictures. You can see the influence.
Yes.
But
for those that are lucky enough to get down to Disney World down in Florida, they have two different types of trains down there. They have the monorails, and then they actually have steamers.
Yeah, 3-foot narrow gauge, like they started in Anaheim.
The one steam engine that we got to ride on, the one that goes from the train station around the park, the docent, that's a nice name for a narrator, said it was a Baldwin that Disney had actually either gone himself or sent someone down to Bolivia, and they found it on a mine operation. I believe it was out of service at the time they found it, and they bought it, shipped it back to the States, completely reworked it so it would operate on compressed natural gas, so it was environmentally friendly.
That's the newer ones, yes, or when they go in for rebuilding. The thing is, he bought 5 of them.
He may well have. The one that we got to ride behind.
In fact, down in Disney World, they have 2 moguls that were United Fruit in Costa Rica. And they came back, and they're actually sister engines.
Oh, that's neat.
And one's called Walt E. Disney, and the other one is called his main. The son wrote a beautiful book on the trains. His father, Brogy, Mike Brogy. He was the technician. He's the one who built the famous triplane, 4-plane camera and stuff like that. Did all the mechanics.
Multi-plane for the 3D.
The multi-plane, and then he actually then engineered building the 1/2-inch scale Lily Bell and the C.K. Holiday, the original 3-foot gauge locomotive that opened Disneyland. Disney very involved with trains.
Yeah,
you can tell just by the surface of it.
Yeah, and he found out that everybody else liked to play with it too.
There was it was almost a double-sized booth up at the World's Greatest Hobby Show back in January, I think.
Michael Brogy.
Just on the Disney trains.
Yeah, Michael Brogy. He was the author that wrote the book on Disney there. that you could buy for a nice $75. And it talks about all the railroad trains at all the Disney parks.
Sinatra was supposed to be a big train guy too.
Yes, he had a wonderful Lionel layout.
Yeah, he was Lionel. Yeah.
Yeah, he's you read the book by Tom McComas and Tui and McGooey, the two partners. They put together a book on great toy train layouts. And yes, Tom Sefton's in it for his standard gauge layout. But Frank Sinatra was in it. They had show pictures of his layout, and it was built. And then they actually put it on video. But they have a lot of good layouts in it.
I saw it, passing, going to and from, and there was a lot of old black and white on Walt Disney's train set at on his property. I fell in love with it.
Well, they actually built the barn that was on his property, and it's in Griffith Park, right near where the live steam railroad is there. And they actually have a whole thing displayed with pictures of the history of the trains on the Disney property.
Griffith Park in L.A. where they film all those, that Western stuff, is that it?
Well, that's where, they film a lot of TV shows there and stuff.
Yeah.
It's big enough. That's where the observatory is located.
Right.
And they got a couple of ride-on trains there.
My daughter just moved to St. Louis. I'm looking forward to taking my granddaughter and grandson to the St. Louis Transportation Museum. I only got a brief look at a picture, but they've got a Burlington Zephyr similar to the one down at the museum, and then he had a steam engine sitting next to it, but they're supposed to have a very impressive collection of trains.
Well, they got one of the units that coupled onto the articulated cars. Zephyr number 9, I think it is.
It was a very, very nice photo, but the engine wasn't in the pristine condition that the one at the Museum of Science and Industry is in. But again, it's stored outside.
And also, if you spend $500,000 on restoring it, like they did it with the Pioneer Zephyr, it would look that good.
Yeah, but $100,000 of that was just taking the hornets' nests out.
It's like a tennis match here.
I'm just trying
bouncing
to
the ball back and forth.
Jump right in if you got something,
Well, I
brother.
do. I got all kinds of stuff.
Well, go ahead.
I got
I yield
sheets
the
of paper.
microphone.
Time out.
All right.
Time out, David. Hold it. Whether Professor, you got anything to say?
No, go ahead, Dave.
He's quiet tonight.
He's a court reporter here, I think.
If you want to take the train to the Indiana State Fair this year, you're out of luck. Indiana Transportation Museum will remain banned from using the tracks of the state fairgrounds, leaving the annual Indiana State Fair train an unlikely proposition this year. The Hoosier Heritage Port Authority decided Monday not to lift a ban on the museum using the tracks that have been in place since March. The Port Authority also approved a new resolution which requires ITM to adhere to 13 specific terms before they can be allowed to use the tracks again. More than 10,000 people relied on the fair train to get to the fair last year, and the Indiana Transportation Museum was hoping to top that number. The ban came after 7 former volunteers blew the whistle on the museum's board of directors, alleging wrongdoings including questionable financial practices, failure to maintain timely and complete records, and an inability to properly manage the museum. The whistleblowers were fired after sending the letter to the museum. The museum's president said that the employees' firing came over a difference of ideas on how to run the museum. Now, it seems that the FRA is involved in this as well. They are trying to determine if the State Fair train can still be considered a historical service or if it should be classified as a short passenger line. There's no deadline for that decision, but if the train gets reclassified, it will have to meet a whole new set of safety standards. So, not good for them. If you're interested in taking photos of traction, that is electrically powered equipment, there's a photo shoot at the East Troy Railroad Museum on July 23rd, 2016, which is going to be in another week. Space is limited to 30 photographers. This small group allows an intimate opportunity to get shots. You must have a reserved ticket on the photo train to participate in the photography section, and a contest will be held to determine the 2017 calendar photo.
East Troy
is in Wisconsin.
Okay.
And it's $50 per participant. They have a bunch of requirements. So I imagine that's going to sell out pretty quick if it's not sold out already.
Now you do photography? I know you were.
Yeah, but I don't do railroad photography. I'm not a big railroad photographer. I like to. I mean, if it's going to be something about railroads, it's probably going to be in a museum, where it's going to be something that's so broken down it's rusted. I like rust. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Great Lakes Basin Transportation, the new circumferential line that's supposed to run around from Wisconsin down to Indiana. The regulators want more alternatives for the alignment, and a number of Illinois counties have voted to oppose it. So it's got. I highly doubt that 275-mile railroad line is ever going to get built.
A lot of NIMBYs.
Yeah, a lot of NIMBYs, and it's just, a lot of. It's not one of these build it and they will come kind of things. There have already been a number of railroads that said that they wouldn't use it even if it was built. And I think that was the idea, that they would own the track and the railroads would lease time on them.
Oh, that's the railroad. This is the railroad version of Peatone International.
Right.
Did anybody happen to hear what the Cook County Board said today on their transportation plan, seeing as they yapped that they wanted to include freight and passenger train operation in their plan?
No. I hadn't heard that.
Well, I guess we'll have to wait for Friday's paper to see what, if anything, was said. They made a big thing out of the announcement Monday or Tuesday night.
I heard they came out with a transportation plan, and they said they were going to include railroads, but they, at that time on Tuesday, they weren't specific on what.
It was supposed to have been a subject of conversation at today's board meeting.
BORED board meeting?
You may spell it in whatever manner pleases you, sir.
Yeah. Well, the trouble with those meetings and those boards are they really think they're above everything too often.
No, talk is cheap,
Yeah, right.
A Metro is expanding service. Midday service on the Rock Island line. A 6-month pilot program will add inbound and outbound regular and express trains on the Rock Island line starting August the 1st. And Metro also is having a Ride Nice campaign for seat hogs and other clueless commuters. They have some sort of trying to improve the ride. Metro is launching the first courtesy campaign Monday with reminders to ride nice.
What does that mean?
Well, don't take up a whole seat with your luggage or your
Well, be considerate.
Be considerate.
Okay.
Don't talk too loud. Don't wear
Watch
too
your
much
language.
perfume.
Yeah.
The only problem is that somebody's got to enforce it, and whenever the conductors try to enforce anything, the commuters turn around and turn them into the company. So it makes the train crews reluctant to do anything.
Right.
They're not police. So this is,
Neither are the police anymore. So.
Right, exactly.
What's wrong, Mark Kevin? You know what I mean.
So that's it from my world of railroading.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else? Professor?
No, I got a question that I would
Okay.
like to ask Dave. You might as well get it in. This whole thing with the FRA wanting to rule on one-man crews. Now, I would like to get your opinion on it.
Okay. Now, for people like myself, FRA is...
Federal Railroad Administration.
Okay.
They basically handle all the rules and regulations for the railroads. Anything they say goes. What they do is whenever they go into a rulemaking mode, they contact the railroads or the American Association of Railroads, which is their spokesmodel, and also they open it up for public opinion. And in the manner of the single-man crew, currently trains have two-man crews, an engineer and a conductor, and the railroads would like to put that down to just an engineer. And I am dead set against it. I think it's a horrible idea.
I haven't heard much from the unions, though.
The unions have strenuously argued against it. They have gone out and lobbied against that.
Because I know the American Association of Railroads, or AAR, have actually come out and voiced strenuously against it, too. And the only thing is, I think, why the FRA is doing it, when you open up the rule book and they talk safety first.
Right.
You are responsible for safety. And they already got so many double meaning rules for locomotive engineers now. It's really scary. One is actually we're technically in violation in passenger service because we have an engineer up in the diesel locomotive cab. You're not supposed to talk on the phone, and you're not supposed to talk on the radio while operating a locomotive.
What if you're by yourself?
But if you're by yourself, so, I mean, you want to contradict yourself more and more. But this, I mean, they're talking about having a man drive along a truck.
Yeah, basically become a glorified truck driver.
And he will take care of any problems that come up.
Well, they contend that what they will have is quote unquote utility men in trucks available. Say a train goes into emergency, broken air hose. This utility man would be within reasonable distance to go out and help reassemble the train or repair whatever problem there was. But that's
because the engineer's not supposed to leave the cab.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, if he does, he's got to tie on like 20 handbrakes and
Do
shut the
everything
engines
else.
down. It's like
Well, if the engineer isn't allowed to use the radio while he's in control of the cab, how does he tell anybody that he's got a problem that needs to be fixed?
well, once the train stops, he can
Well,
call.
when the train stopped, yeah. But see what we're talking about is now several railroads in the east. We won't talk much about CSX. All of a sudden, what they're doing is want to run longer trains. See, 150-car trains aren't enough anymore. They've run a couple of trains. They're working, tying them together because we have the technology where we can still, in the lead locomotive, control all the locomotives in it. So they have trains midway through.
Right,
Those
yeah.
locomotive engines are controlled by the cab.
Called DPU, distributed power units.
Right. And Railfan magazine a month ago had a beautiful picture of one of these 275-car trains trying to go from one track to another around a curve. And 11 cars just fell over like a good Lionel layout. 11 cars just fell right off
Why is that?
because weight distribution, the tension.
Yeah, it's called string lining. Like when you take a string and just pull it, snap.
And that's what happened. And they bought that up. And
Yeah, and the railroads brought in the remote control into the yards, where there's no engineer on the locomotive anymore. The man on the ground has a belt pack and controls the locomotives. And there have been numerous occasions when the trains have basically gone off on their own. And they just had an incident in Canada recently where a train got out of the yard and went quite a few miles down the track. And it finally stopped when it went up a hill, and I guess they managed somehow to get the emergency brake set on the train, and there were hazmats in the train. So this is the railroad industry is so they think they can solve everything with technology, and they want to cut down the number of people they have working for them.
right, they just came out this 2 days ago. Norfolk Southern, or CSX, they're laying off people. 3/4 of the people they're laying off are track workers.
Yeah.
And the sad part is, railroads are slow to adopt technology while they're busy trying to figure out how to cut the trains down to one-man crews. the truck drivers are being put out of work because of robotic trucks.
Right.
So at some point, the railroads are going to discover that the trains could be run by robots.
But that's just it. We had two trains running into each other. What happened? Was the guy asleep?
Probably. That's my guess. My
Well,
guess
that's
is
what
fatigue.
He
and
ran the red signal because
both people fell asleep.
That's what PTC is for.
Yeah, right.
But the robotic trains is nothing new. Remember, the Santa Fe had a big display at the Museum of Science and Industry for a long time, where the freight cars would deliver themselves. It was back in the late '60s.
There's
one of their
the
big plans.
Union Pacific has a spur line that runs along the north side of 138th Street, east of Indiana, and I've seen the guy on the ground with the yard pack working the yard engine, and any mechanical device, any electronic device can fail, and if there isn't somebody there to drop it out of gear and yank the brake, sooner or later there is going to be a problem.
Well, they actually have the crews can work in the yard in tandem, and what they do is they call catch the train. One guy lets the other one with the bell pack. He says, "Okay, you can take it over now." So
But there is a man in the cab. Because the guy holding the backpack, all he has to be is a conductor and trained. He's not a locomotive engineer.
It just, I know you're not going to appreciate this, Brian, but it tickles me when I see the engines with the big Y on them in front of the number. Because I know they're robots.
No, that's a counting system for yard.
Yeah, those are yard engines.
Those are yard engines.
Yeah, every one that I've seen
Well, the reason
with the Y, you always see it right next to that lime green, international green sign that says caution, there may not be an engineer in the cab.
Oh, yeah, you can see some way. I'm not saying all the locomotives are not remote controlled. Yes, you have some remote control, but you also have some that are just regular locomotives.
That are just restricted to the yard.
Yeah, or local service.
I think it's
Well, just listening to these ideas and these rule makers, gee, when something happens, you wonder why, huh? I mean, it's just it has to be, obviously, cost is going to be a big factor, but what about safety? Isn't that,
Are the rule makers certified engineers, or are they
No.
certified desk jockeys?
test jockeys.
certified bureaucrats?
Yep.
They're bean counters.
Yeah. Bottom line crap, which brings us pretty close to the bottom line.
And we
The
are
end of the line.
And we are end of the line right now.
We are at the end of the line. Well, folks, we're at the end of the line. Until next time, on behalf of Professor Doug Kanyok,
hello.
Chief Petty Officer Brian Valou. Let's see. David Darushka.
Left-wing extremist Dave Darushka.
They still got them? Sergeant Kevin Berry, who outranks me,
Sergeant retired.
We need the John Birch Society again.
And what was my best thing? I did? Former, let's see, I was a scout, but I didn't make it, but to star, not Life and Eagle. So I guess that's me, Jack Ryan. On behalf of all, and John DeVita, our engineer, our inspiration, our boss. Till the next time, happy rails to you.
Yes, we have now pulled into the station. Join us again next time when we take the railroad of imagination and go through the wonderful world of trains. Chicago Junction is a production of the Windy City Hometown Radio Network and can be heard over this station, as well as the WindyCityHometown.com, where all recordings of our shows may be heard. Once again, all aboard. We wish to thank the 11 of you that continue listening every week. This is your announcer, Brian Valou, and thank you for listening.
You have been listening to Chicago Junction on Jack FM 89.7 WRHS FM Norge and the Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network from the John DeVito Broadcast Center on Monday, July the 18th, the year 2016. Chicago Junction was produced by Jack Ryan, directed by John DeVito. Our audio engineer tonight is Mr. James Rohde, and we want to thank State Radio Station Manager Kevin Zeflik of WRHS FM Norwich and the executive producer of Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network, Mr. John Chikanda. This program was pre-recorded on Thursday, July the 14th, the year 2016. Until next time, please be safe, and thanks for listening. And this is Jack FM 89.7 WRHS FM, Norwich, Illinois.